Hi, a film I watched this week was God Told Me To, 1976 strange thriller written and directed by Larry Cohen and also released under the title Demon. It's about a series of bizarre multiple murders taking place in New York, with each perpetrator happily giving themselves up to police or killing themselves after declaring that they committed these crimes because God told them to. A police inspector is investigating, having personally witnessed and tried to talk down a sniper who's randomly shooting at people in the street. He interviews a man who murdered his family and is now in a lunatic asylum, and slowly starts to piece together what has happened. That they, the murderers fell under the influence of a figure called Bernard Phillips, who appears to have some kind of almost supernatural power. As the film goes on, we discover what's really going on. And it's very disappointing that the central premise of God commanding these crimes to have taken place is essentially abandoned in favor of a much more sci-fi concept that feels like it's ripped off a second-rate David Cronenberg film. And it's really strange, I think, that with such a multitude of ideas, of the central premise of God commanding violent crimes, or the sci-fi twist and weirdness that we have in the second half, that the film is actually really, really boring. It never does any kind of effort to capture the audience. I think the central performances are dull and uninteresting. Some of the direction is pretty good. There's lots of location footage of grotty mid-70s New York, and the sequence where a police officer on a St. Patrick's Day parade suddenly starts firing randomly into the crowd is particularly effective, thanks to shooting during the actual parade, for which they did not have permits, and getting Andy Kaufman, who was just starting out as a comedian then and was on the verge of appearing on Saturday Night Live, just to join the police officers in uniform and then start causing trouble. His performance artist sensibilities, meaning it was a treat for him. Um, it's not a great film. It has the potential to be interesting. It has the potential to be original and unusual. I thought you could have a twist where it was almost like an alternate version of The Omen, where it turned out that it was the Old Testament God returning, that the Bernard Phillips character was the new Messiah, and the cop investigating as the Antichrist. And there could be some kind of conflict there about whether or not which of these two supernatural powers are in the right. Is it the vengeful God of the Old Testament or the rebellious Satan of Pilgrim's Progress and William Blake? There are ideas there that could be developed in an interesting way, in a more engaging way, but instead we just have a load of weirdo sci-fi nonsense um, that seems to have been pulled out of Cohen's subconscious. I've not seen many of his other films as a director. I'm interested in seeing Q the Winged Serpent particularly. And he did have a late career run with two films based around the idea of the telephone, Phone Booth, which Colin Farrell is trapped in a phone booth by a sniper, and Cellular, which reverses the concept that a woman locked in an attic is able to get the broken phone working, connects to a random number, which is the newly purchased mobile owned by surfer dude Chris Evans. Both work effectively as strong thrillers, old school drive-in pictures with a modern sensibility and a big budget. Cellular stars Kim Basinger, Chris Evans, and Jason Statham. It's surprisingly starry for what it is. But God Told Me To is just a textbook example of wasted potential. There are so many good ideas here. There's so much visceral energy. There's so much texture of the grotty, smear-stained New York of the early to mid-70s. And all of it's wasted because Cohen doesn't really know, seemingly, what he wants the story to be about. This was a follow-up to It's Alive, which was a story about a mutant murderous baby. He has ideas and he has great concepts and the ability to pitch them clearly. If only he could develop them in a way that actually made them worthwhile.